Hi everyone, good morning, good evening, whenever it is that you're tuning into this. Welcome back to Passion Movement. My name is Julia, and I really wanted to talk today about living authentically and living through your authentic self. And before we even dive in, I kind of just want to talk about what that even means, what it means to live authentically, what it means to live through your authentic self. And from what I've learned, from what has been true to me, true to the people around me, really living authentically is really when you're living in a state of flow, in a state of ease, in a state of peace. And it's not to say that, there's no stress, there's no obstacles when you're in that state, because there definitely are, right? Those are parts of life. The downs, the obstacles, the difficulties, you cannot live life without them. Imagine we had a life in which everything was always positive. There was nothing ever going wrong. You wouldn't even appreciate the positive, or really you wouldn't even be able to notice and recognize that you're living in such positivity because there is no negativity to compare it to. And so we obviously live in this state of duality where, both the good and the bad is always present. But when you're living authentically and when you're really living through your authentic self, it's a much greater state of flow. There's significantly less resistance with just about anything you do, right? Every aspect of your life, whether it's your career, your finances, your relationship, your health. When you're living in that state, there is so much less resistance. There are ultimately less obstacles, and you're able to just, like I said, go into that state of flow and be able to take action without having to force yourself, without having to convince yourself, without having to break past all these different barriers and resistances to take action on something, because it feels so true to you, and it happens with such ease, right? When we're living in states that are not authentic to ourselves, and for the most part that's nearly all of us, nearly all our lives, until we really consciously take that choice and take that action to live authentically. But until then, we're always, for the most part, living through such deep resistance. It's why so many people have jobs that they hate, right? It's very, very unlikely that you're going to be able to go through your life without having a job, without having to work or sustain yourself, because we do live in a society where you do need money to live, right? I cannot go and buy shelter. I can't buy food, water, clothing for myself, or acquire these things without money for the most part, right? For the most part. And so we need money to survive, and so we ultimately need to somehow put in some type of work to receive some type of monetary compensation in order to live. And so how this really ties in with your authentic self is that when we're really, really focused on the money, and we're really, really stressed about trying to pay our bills and trying to put food on our table, it ultimately doesn't really matter to us how we make the money. Whether we have 9-to-5 jobs, or we work 5 different side hustles, whatever that may be, just to put food on the table. But a lot of the times when we're doing all these things and we're chasing the money and we're trying to just live, we're not living authentically because it's not true to who we are. And so yes, you're going to create money, yes, you may create results, but you're going to be hit back with so much resistance, and a lot of that resistance is really going to manifest itself as burnout. A lot of the time, that's really what I've seen true for myself, is when I'm working on things, whether it's a job or a business or whatever it is that I'm doing, and before I even recognize that perhaps what I'm doing is not authentically true to me, I'm going to start seeing and really experiencing a lot of resistance and a lot of burnout. I'm going to have times where I just don't want to do anything, and I'll take a break, and still I don't want to do it, And that's kind of, for me, almost a clear-cut sign that, hey, what I'm doing is not authentic to who I am. Let me shift. And that shift, right, going from doing something inauthentic to you to then tuning into your authentic self, whether it's expressing yourself in some way, whether it's working a different type of job, whether it's starting a whole new business, right? That shift comes with a lot of fear. All change comes with fear, right? We talked about this last week with when you are going from something that you know that you have control over into something that's the unknown, and you're not sure what's going to happen, and there potentially are obstacles and difficulties that you will face. You're going to be combated with such intense fear for the most part because you're letting go of this illusion of control. And so it becomes truly very difficult to tap into that authentic self, especially for those of us who maybe don't quite know what our authentic self is, right? Don't entirely know who it is that we are as people, what it is that we're here to do. And definitely check out my last podcast on, finding your passion, finding your purpose, because that will help you deeply aligning with your authentic self. And when you're in that state, money will flow, relationships will flow, love will flow, and it'll all be with ease, right? It's not to say that you won't be working. It's not to say that you won't be putting in action and still at times doing things that you don't really want to do that are going to benefit you long term. You're still going to do all these things for the most part. But they're going to come with such ease, and more than anything, they're going to come with such fulfillment because you're enjoying it. You're really, truly enjoying it, and it's true to you. I want to share this personal anecdote that, I've kind of lived through, I've worked through, and I've changed through, where I was really working on a business for quite some time, not too long, but it was a couple of months, and it was great, the potential results, the potential reward that could have been reaped from me doing all this work and building this business were incredible. And the more that I worked on it, the more that I put in time, I just kept burning out over and over and over and over. And I would take breaks, right? Just like I said, I would take breaks and I would come back and the burnout didn't leave. Maybe it would leave for a day, maybe even a week, if even a week. And it would come back and I would have to just keep forcing myself. It's just this continual use of willpower. And your willpower is not an infinite source. One person does not necessarily have a significantly nurtured willpower than somebody else. Willpower really is, and this is scientifically studied, right? You could definitely find some studies on this. Your willpower is a very finite resource, and once you kind of cap it out, that's when you're going to have that continuous burnout over and over, and that's what was happening to me, where I was just burning out left and right, and it really took some time for me to sit down with myself and think, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? What's the reason? Is this true to me? And when you're kind of answering this question of, is this true to me? Is this authentic to me? Your biggest indication will be your intuition, right? That gut feeling, knowing intuitively without any necessary physical attributes. Kind of intuitively, in your gut whether something is true or not to you. And so in that moment I realized, hey, this is great, I could keep working on this, keep kind of forcing myself and reap potential amazing benefits, but it's not true to me and it didn't feel right to me, and it's not who I really, really am. And after having built that for several months, I really just took a step back, paused for a bit, and then ultimately decided to really just step away from it entirely, and I let it go. And now I'm pursuing my other things that do feel authentically true to me. And so I sit down and I do this work, and I'm excited. I'm genuinely excited to work, and it's not to say because I love working, because I don't think ultimately any of us do, but because this work that I'm doing is so fulfilling to me and feels so true and authentic to me, I sit down and I'm excited. I'm truly, truly excited to go do it. And so that's really that flow state of knowing what you're doing and knowing that you're doing it authentically for yourself. So I kind of want to leave it off here, but just to really cap everything together, living authentically is living in a state of flow. It's living in a state of least resistance, really, not just for your highest good, but for the highest good of the world. The things that you're doing when you're living authentically will not only benefit you to the absolute greatest degree that they can, but they're also going to benefit the world. It's those things that you do that are authentic to you, when you're really being yourself and doing your own thing and expressing yourself in true ways, that you're going to reap the absolute greatest benefits. And that work that you have to do, that action that you have to take to go and actually, fulfill that thing, won't feel like work. Perhaps the first time, maybe the first few times, but you're going to get such fulfillment and joy from it that you'll know. And you'll know in your gut, you'll know intuitively. If you are like most people in this world today kind of walking around with a mask over you and not truly expressing yourself to your core, to the world, right? Whether you're acting differently around different people, or you're posting things on social media that aren't entirely true to who you are, but true to this identity that you're cultivating on the internet. That's really what kind of adds to that resistance and adds to this identity that we create for ourselves that isn't true. And so I want to leave you off with this little practice that I really, really like to do is go and post something on social media, or go do something outside that's embarrassing to you but you really want to do. I'm really embarrassed to dance around people or sing around people, and I remember recently I posted a video of me dancing on the internet, and it was terrifying, but it felt so good because it was so authentically me. And not only did it help me break past a bunch of limiting beliefs, but ultimately led me to be more comfortable with myself, because the more comfortable you are with yourself, the more you're going to be able to not only tap into your intuition, but also tap into your authentic self and figure out what that thing is that is both for the highest good of yourself and the world. So thank you again, everyone, for tuning in today. This is Passion Movement. My name is Julia, and we'll see you next week.